Welcome back. In this session, we'll learn about MS Excel, the basics of it. An Excel sheet is what you see right here. It is made up of a series of cell values or cells. Each cell can be referred by a column and a row reference. So what you see is I've highlighted a particular cell, and that is column F, row 5, and hence it's called F5, which you can see right here. Excel also allows you a facility to name a particular cell. So let's say I want to call this cell as first value. If you go to any other cell, it's not named, so it still says the reference. I come back to the same cell, it still shows in the name first value. This can then be used for any subsequent calculation that I want to. So now I have two ways of referring to this cell. I can call it F5 or I can call it first value. Coming back to a few data types that are there in Excel. So Excel generally has a series of data type. To see that, just right click on that and go to format cells. So a cell can have any of these formats. The ones which we generally use are number, which you can set any kind of formatting that you want to. You want decimal up to how many places. If you want a negative value to be shown in which format. There are multiple formats possible. Next is currency. So if you're doing with dollar terms, you can use dollar. It also allows you the INR. Just check them. Other one which we frequently use is percentage. 2 decimal places. Text if you want. Right? And then there is something called as custom, which we'll be doing in due course of time. So any kind of values which you see there is, as I said, a text, a number, percentage. So if I type a number, you can see here, a number will always be right aligned. On the other hand, if I write a text, it will be left aligned. Many times, they copy data from a website or a web page directly and paste it, even though it is a number. Often, because of the way it is coded into HTML, when it is copied into Excel, it's taken as a text. So you might think it's a number, but internally Excel thinks it's a text. As a result, you won't be able to use it for any kind of calculations, because most of the calculations that are there in Excel, the regular calculations, need a number data, and that not much calculations are available on text. So just be careful on that count. The easiest way to identify whether a particular value is a number or a text, just look at the alignments and you should be able to make sense of it. The other most common mistake which people end up doing is when they are dealing with percentage format. Now, as you understand, if I say 20%, 20% is nothing but 0.2, right? So I can write 0.2, go out here, right at the top you see, and if I say percentage, it becomes 20%. Many times during calculation, what happens is you calculate the percentage value and the formatting for that cell is sometimes set, let's say, as a number with 0 decimals. So if for this cell I had set a number with 0 decimals, you are bound to see a 0, because 0.2 is rounded off to the closest 0 while displaying. So I can see a value 0.2, but what I see because of the formatting is 0. The reason I'm pointing out this to you is I have seen many number of times that people do some calculation where the output is coming in percentage terms, and because the cell in which the output is shown has a format saying 0 decimal, they say, sir, we are getting a 0 answer. But in reality, it is not 0, it's a percentage value. So we just take a percentage, you should be able to see it. So while doing percentage calculations, don't be afraid if you see a 0, just change the formatting. The next thing is the custom formatting which we promised. So as we saw in this example also, the previous example, if I have a comma, if I put it in this format with 0 decimal, comma is for putting it in a normal style, even though the underlying value is 0.2, be showing it as 0. And that's the good thing about Excel. Excel has one way of storing data, so it will store data actually as you want it, but while displaying, it can change the way it wants to display. To give you an example, let's say I have a sheet in which I need to put all my numericals, and I have, say, 2013 actual data, then I have 2014 actual data, and then beyond 2014 I have forecasted data. So I want to write 2015 F forecasted, 2016 F, and so on. Right? So in this I have typed out everything, but it would be more convenient if I could write the first value and all other values get calculated. Meaning, if I, let's say, highlight this cell with this color, with the background color yellow, and say, if you change the value here, all three values will get updated automatically. So to do that, I can fall back on the formatting which I have just talked to you. So what we do there is, I'll write 213, just the number, come back to that cell, you can do a right click, go to format cells, or alternatively you can use the shortcut key which is Control and 1 together. Both will show up the same screen for formatting cells. In this, if you now go to custom, right now it is chosen a general format, and whatever format you choose is shown right here. So now format we want is 2013A. So I choose 0, which represents any number. Take a space bar. Whatever format I want, I put it in double quotes. The moment I did this, you saw this became 2013A, the way I wanted. I say OK. It shows it. In the next cell, I can say equal to the previous cell plus 1. Remember, the reason we had to put equal to was when I want to tell Excel that okay, now do a calculation, I need to start it with equal to. So since I had to add the previous value plus 1, which is the calculation, I started using equal to. I enter, I get 2014A. Is what I wanted. Next, so if I highlight this cell at the bottom, you will see if you place it right at the rightmost bottom value, you will see a plus sign. The moment you see a plus sign, click it, drag it across. You get 2015A, 2016A. But we wanted 2015F and 2016F. No problem. Highlight those cells. Again, Control 1 to come to this formatting. change this A to F. Okay, and that's it. Values are changed. Now here, if I make 2013 as 2012, automatically everything else gets updated. Right? And as you see here, so what's happening here? If you just go across the values in each cell, you will see whatever you had typed is shown here, what is called as a formula bar. So formula bar will show you the actual value, and in the cell you will use the formatting that you have set and display it accordingly. And in subsequent cells, since you have a formula, it will show the formula, whatever formula that is, and continue to use the format that you have shown. And as you saw here, for these two cells you had one format, for next two you had a different format. So you can use any kind of formatting which is suitable for you and use it for the purpose. The next thing that we need to learn is what I call as a dollar convention or freezing of cells. So what happens in this case? Let's say I just punch in few numbers. Let's say I put 20, 30, 40, and 50 here. I just create a small grid of numbers 20, 40, 30, 50, and then I say now I want to do a calculation. Okay, the calculation I want to do is equal to this value plus I want to add 5 to it. That makes it 25. Now if you see that if I copy this cell to the next cell, to do that I can go to this cell, I'll say Control C, come to the next cell and say Control V. So it's been copied. So now go back here. If you double click in this cell, it will highlight the cells that I used in that particular formula. So it will show this plus 5, this the cell D17. Similarly, if you go to the next cell, it shows E17 plus 5. Now the question is, why did Excel change the columns? And that's where we come to the concept called as referencing in Excel. So what Excel does is, the moment you copied this cell from this cell to this cell, Excel realizes that you want to copy the formula, and in that formula whatever reference you have used, it will just take the reference as it is. So it thinks that in this cell you are referencing a cell which was 1, 2, 3, 4 rows above it, but in the same column. So when you copy in this cell, it will also reference the cell in the same column but 4 rows above. Similarly, if I copy this cell down, what it does, it picks up that I have moved one cell down, so the reference that was there to E17, I need to move one cell down, one row down rather, and hence the formula you see here is D18 plus 5. Again, if you copy this and paste it here, now you'll see you have moved one row below and one column to the right. The formula updated. So this was Excel automatically on your behalf picks up the idea that you want to change the referencing. But there could be instances where you don't want this. You want to override this fact that don't change the references. So in that case, to force Excel not to change the references, you can fall back on what I call as a dollar referencing. So coming back to the same thing, I come here, I'll say this plus 6 in this case. I've slightly changed it. So now what I want to do is, I don't want to copy, whenever I copy from here to the next cell, I don't want the columns to change. So what I can do is I can come back here in the formula, and since, if you remember, we had said any cell is referenced by column and row. So now I'm saying I don't want the column to change. So what I can do, before the column reference, I will insert the dollar symbol. So shift, numeric 4 key, insert the dollar key, and that's it. So you have put a dollar symbol. Now if you try to copy this and put on the right, you'll see it's still referring to D17. Previously also is referring to D17. So now Excel doesn't do the change in referencing. However, if you copy the same cell and paste it down, you will see the reference has changed. Reason, you have only fixed the column, you have not fixed the row. As a result, when this movement happened, and we pasted this cell, Excel could see that only the column was fixed, but the row could change. And in this case, since the row reference changed by 1 because you copied one row below, in this formula also change one row below. There is no restriction on your row number. So if I want to prevent that, let's say I delete this, I come back here, I freeze the row also by adding a dollar symbol before the row number. I do this, and now I again copy this, paste it below, and you see it still refers to D17 because now both row and column are fixed. So automatically, if I just copy this here and go to this cell and now paste it, since both row and column are frozen, there is no change in reference and it remains same. So you can see a difference. In these cells, we had not used the dollar convention. So as we copied formulas to the row or the column, the referencing changed. In this case, since we had frozen both row and column, even though you copied formulas to the right or below, there is no change in the output that you saw. The references remained same. In terms of referencing, the way you can use a shortcut for referencing is, let's say if I just refer to one cell, you can use the F4 key for adding the dollar convention. If I just refer to a cell and put F4, you will see both row and column are frozen or fixed. If you type F4 again, now you see only row is fixed. You press F4 again, only the column is fixed. You press F4 again, nothing is fixed. So it loops through these 4 states: freeze both row column, freeze only row, freeze only column, freeze nothing. If you press F4 again for the 5th time, again that cycle continues. So a shortcut F4 key can also be used for freezing cells, or you can manually go and insert the dollar sign wherever you want. Coming back to the next quick shortcuts, Control R and Control D, which is, I write a value here, I want to copy this value to the right, and go to the next cell and just say Control R. Control R means copy to the right cell. I want to copy below, I use Control D, which is copy to the cell below, copy down. These are useful tools if you want to use them. The next thing that we need to talk about is inserting functions. A set of functions we'll be discussing in subsequent sessions, but the basics of how do we insert a function. Okay. So a function in Excel is nothing but a small set of instructions which are written by default in Excel, and you can just invoke them for your purpose. So if I want to say add up these values, all these values put together, I want to sum them up. So the easiest function you have is called the sum function, right? So if I want to use that sum function, I need to insert that function, and to do that I can use 2 or 3 ways for inserting a function. Before we begin the function, you need to understand what we call as the formula bar. The formula bar is the place where your function will be shown. So if you want, you can go to the formula bar here and type the function that you want. If I just say equal to SUM, show the function. As you realize, the Excel help is extremely good here. Moment you typed the first S, it showed everything, all the functions which began with S. So even if you don't know a function, you just faintly remember what that function name is, this is a good tool for you, or good help from Excel to help you find that function, right? So you can use it using this way, or even if you put the same thing in the cell, you say equal to SUM, you'll see you have typed SUM here, you got the help here, whatever you wrote here also is reflected out here in the formula bar. Sometime back we had said whenever some calculation needs to be done, we start with equal to, and that's why even for inserting a function we had to begin with equal to. The other way in which you can insert a function is using the plus sign. Even if I write plus, Excel does know that you want to carry out some calculation. You can also use, if you want, a minus sign. Nothing wrong. But obviously if you put a minus sign, the result that you are going to get is going to be a negative value. So since we are on this minus symbol, let's say I want to write bullet points. I want to write dash A, dash B, dash C in the cells. The moment I write dash and I put A, Excel thinks I want to insert a function. Now how do I tell Excel that please don't think I'm going to put an formula? So to that you can fall back on what we call as the escape characters. So if I want to write the same thing dash A, the way I would do it is use a single apostrophe dash A. So you will see here the single apostrophe that you put is shown in the formula bar, but in the actual text that is displayed to you, the apostrophe sign is missing. Only dash A is shown. So apostrophe is called as the escape character in this case, which means by putting that you tell Excel and whatever is going to come next is going to be a textual data. So don't think that I'm going to put a formula. So again, this is used the same feature as we saw in formatting. The value in formula bar is the actual value, and what is shown is slightly different. In terms of a formula insertion, the third way in which you can insert a formula is, if you come to the formula bar here, you will see a sign called fx, and the moment you place your cursor there, it shows the help tip saying insert function. So if you click that, you can see a screen like this, wherein it shows, which gives you a nice search option. You can say sum, say go. Since it could find multiple values which match sum, it will show me all those sum values. wherever it finds some, and then I can choose which I want and use it for my session out here. Excel also categorizes all set of functions into different categories. You can say or select a category. So if you are searching a function which you are not aware, but you broadly know it is used for a particular purpose, so try to identify in which category it might fall, and then you can zero in on the function you want. In terms of categories of function, not to say from a modeling point of view we need all these categories. So what we'll do is, in the next sessions, based on the various categories mentioned, we will pick up the relevant categories that we need to study, and we'll talk about them in detail. So that was a basic introduction to the Excel. Just remember one thing: whenever you are using Excel, just by looking at a video like this is not going to help you. As long as you don't promise, you don't open Excel and try out things yourself, you won't get the expertise that you need in navigating the Excel sheets. So I strongly recommend that you spend as much time as possible using Excel. So in your own roles, if you are in your own jobs, corporate jobs, if you are working, or if you are a student, if you have to use any kind of data and data crunching, try to see if you can do that on Excel, just for a practice sake. Because whatever I have told you is just a summary. It's just a very brief introduction to Excel. When you start exploring this yourself, you'll realize there are a lot of powerful ways in which you can fasten up your work, and that will be useful for your polishing your skills on Excel, which is extremely important for the modeling purpose. In the next sessions, we'll talk about the various functions that are there in Excel and that we can use going forward. Thank you very much.